A female ghost drenched in blood stared back at her as Sophia stared into the figure, its eyes burning with anger. "Help me," the ghost said in a very faint voice. Immediately Clara screamed, but the room remained calm. No one could hear her, they were all asleep. Then the ghost disappeared. She was so scared that she couldn't sleep till morning. How it all started. As soon as Sophia stepped into the grand, Gothic-style building of St. Mary's boarding school, she knew she didn't belong there. She had pleaded with her parents to go to a different school, but they refused, saying St. Mary's was for the high and mighty. She cried all through the journey, hoping her parents could have a change of mind, but their minds were made up. The school was known to be the best school for the rich and highly influential. It was owned by nuns. They prided themselves as the best. They would do anything to ensure a child doesn't fail, or repeat classes even if it meant exposing the exams papers. When they arrived, she saw the stern-faced nuns, the eerie silence, and the musty smell of old books and decay made her skin crawl. But her parents were adamant that this was the best place for her, a place where she could focus on her studies and become a better person. When they got there, her father gave her a hug and told her to be strong before leaving. Sophia glanced at the car driving away, feeling abandoned. She glanced at the school building and decided to get inside. Sophia was a special girl, one who saw and heard things that others couldn't. She had always been sensitive to the supernatural, and the old boarding school seemed to be a hotbed of paranormal activity. She settled in her dormitory as other students. She attended classes, and when she is free she goes to the library to read books, as she was a nerd in the sciences. Her first 3 weeks in the school went well, everything was okay, and she was almost getting comfortable when this happened. One night as she lay down on her bed to sleep, something strange happened. She began to sense something. She heard an unusual footsteps as if someone was walking in the hallway. She heard the disturbing sound of high heels screeching against the sharp tiles, cutting through the stillness like a knife. Koi koi koi, the footsteps kept echoing. She was the only one who heard it, the only one awake. Heart pounded as the footsteps drew closer, each step more deliberate, more menacing. Suddenly it was in her room, the sounds of a woman's footsteps. Sophia squeezed her eyes shut, afraid to open it or move. Afraid that any sound she made might bring the thing before her, she clung to her bedsheet, frozen in fear. Then the footsteps stopped. Silence. Thinking she was gone, Sophia opened her eyes, and her breath caught in her throat. Sitting opposite her, a female ghost drenched in blood stared back at her as Sophia stared into the figure, its eyes burning with anger. "Help me," the ghost said in a very faint voice. Immediately Clara screamed, but the room remained calm. No one could hear her, they were all asleep. Then the ghost disappeared. She was so scared that she couldn't sleep till morning. Every night, as she lay in bed, Sophia would hear the unmistakable sound of footsteps echoing down the hallway. They were heavy, deliberate steps, accompanied by the click of high heels. But whenever she mentioned it to her friends, they would just laugh and tell her she was imagining things. Sophia began to doubt her own sanity. Maybe she was hallucinating. Maybe the stress of being in a new school was getting to her. But deep down, she knew what she heard was real. One night she opened the door and saw a pair of reed heels lying on its own, making that sound, koi koi koi. Immediately she shut the door and ran to her bed. She complained to her parents during their weekly phone calls, begging them to let her change schools. But they were unsympathetic. "You need to adjust to the school environment, Sophia," her mother would say. "You're just being homesick. Stop focusing on these silly hallucinations and concentrate on your studies." But Sophia knew what she heard was not just her imagination. And then, one night, the footsteps did not just stop outside her door and came inside the room. She opened her eyes to a ghostly apparitions standing in her room, her face twisted in malevolent grins. A girl with piercing green eyes and curly brown hair, wore a pair of red heels and a short skirt. Sophia screamed, her voice echoing down the hallway, but her friends just stirred in their sleep, unaware of the terror that Sophia was experiencing. The next day, Sophia told her friends about the ghosts, but they just advised her to use the rosary that the nuns had given them. "It'll protect you from evil spirits," they said, patting her hand condescendingly. But Sophia knew that the rosary was just a symbol, a weak defense against the malevolent forces that lurked in the shadows of St. Mary's. She knew that she had to find another way to confront the darkness head-on. So the next time the ghost appeared, wearing a pair of red heels and a white gown, Sophia steeled herself and asked, "What do you want?" The ghost's grin faltered, and for a moment, Sophia saw a glimmer of sadness in its eyes. "I want to know who killed me," the ghost said, its voice barely above a whisper. I want revenge for my death. Please, I know I was killed in this school and buried in the forest close to the school, and that my killers are here, but I can't recall their faces. I only remember these names: Rose, Mary and Caroline. I don't know if they are related to my death. Please help me uncover the mystery surrounding my death, so I can finally rest in peace." Sophia was taken aback. She had never thought about the ghost story, its motivations. She had always assumed it was just a malevolent spirit, intent on scaring her. But now, she saw the ghost in a different light. "Okay," Sophia said, determination rising within her. "I'll help you." As they talked, Sophia learned that the ghost's name was Elizabeth, and that she was once a teacher of St. Mary's boarding school until her disappearance, but Sophia did not know how and where to get the information she needed. Armed with this knowledge, Sophia began to investigate the history of St. Mary's, poring over dusty old books and talking to the older nuns. She discovered that the school had a dark past, one marked by tragedy and loss. As she dug deeper, Sophia uncovered a web of secrets and lies, a conspiracy that went all the way to the top. She discovered that Elizabeth had been killed by a group of rogue nuns, who had been embezzling money from the school, and using it to fund their own twisted desires. She stumbled on a diary written by one of the nuns in the principal's secret room when she sneaked in. How it began. Elizabeth had stumbled upon their scheme. She saw 3 nuns sharing a huge amount of money that was meant for the school project. They offered to give her some, but she declined, telling them to return the money or she exposes them. They agreed to return the money just to buy time, and devise a means to deal with her. One evening 3 nuns asked her to accompany them to an occasion. While they were driving, they asked her to step out of the car to buy something. As she was walking down, one of them drove in speed, and ran her over. Immediately she fell on the floor and died. Elizabeth, they called out of fear. She didn't respond. "You've killed her," Sister Rose said. "We didn't ask you to kill her. We said you should make her unconscious so she could probably lose her memory and forget about the whole incident." Sister Mary said. They were all scared, not because of the dead sister but because of deciding to do something to the body. They took her body and buried her in the forest close to the school to conceal the truth and protect the school's image, and to protect school's reputation. After some weeks, she was declared missing till date. Sister Caroline was the one behind the steering. She blamed herself for the death of Elizabeth and couldn't live with the guilt. She wrote everything in the jotter and committed suicide. Armed with this knowledge, Sophia confronted the nuns, demanding justice for Elizabeth's death. They tried to deny it, but slowly the truth began to unravel. She had the diary of the late Sister Caroline, and all the details there as an evidence. Sister Rose, who was presently the principal, saw the diary and hid it in her secret room. The nuns who had killed Elizabeth were brought to justice, and the ghost finally found peace. Sophia's parents were amazed at the change in her when they came to visit. She was confident and self-assured, no longer the timid girl who had been plagued by hallucinations. "What happened?" they asked, bewildered. Sophia just smiled. She knew that she had faced her fears and come out on top. She had discovered a strength within herself that she never knew she had. And as she walked out of the boarding school gates, Sophia knew that she would never forget the lessons she had learned at St. Mary's, lessons about courage, perseverance, and the power of the human spirit.